Hello, this is Branden Henner. We're rebuilding my lab and we're going to start looking at adding a Cisco switch and doing some things with NAC there. So one of the things you're going to want to see is the version number on that iOS. So I've got 3750 with this iOS version. Your mileage may vary, so if you're running an older version, you might see some commands missing or not exactly the same. Same thing with the newer version. So, be aware of that and just kind of go along with it. I'm going to put my config in the notes of the YouTube video. To save time, I just went ahead and copied and pasted it, and it went fine. But I figured we'd save some time in the video here by not doing that now. I'm going to take a look here. So we've got the switch configured with this config. If we look at it, we have some specific radius configuration settings for NAC. Some of these are pretty important, but I'm not going to go into every aspect in detail for time's sake. But know that you do need to set the time, an NTP server, set all that correctly. I have it pointed to my wireless controller set up as an NTP server, as you saw in some of the previous videos. And DHCP snooping is enabled for my VLAN so that we can get our fingerprint information into NAC. I configured spanning tree to match the scheme inside my lab. I enabled LLDP so that the maps configuration will work, and we'll discover all that correctly. A lot of port level detail needed here for the NAC configuration aspects. You'll see that my uplinks port 24 and pretty much the rest of the ports are configured identically. And I've got SNMP v3 configured with my standard credentials that I have in Extreme Management. So again, I've enabled Telnet and NTP right there. So we can get into that box and archive and do some fun things. So we're going to start with adding our SNMP configs for the Cisco switch. So I'm going to go to Administration and Profiles, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. So we'll call it Cisco v3 profile. It'll be an SNMP v3 profile. I'll just use my defaults. You can see in that config earlier, I just have the default creds the same as they are in Extreme Management. Of course, if you were putting this into production, you probably want to make that unique. We're going to do some new CLI credentials. We'll call it Cisco CLI Telnet. I'm doing this because I cannot leave the password blank like I can with Extreme products. So I left the password blank on all my other stuff just to keep it simple. But I went ahead and put password for all these. Just gonna make sure I did that right. Okay, good. All right, so I've got that SNMP v3 profile. I'm gonna go back to my network and just right-click on world. Oh, geez. And add device. 2.168.1.33. That's what I configured my switch for. And I'll select that Cisco v3 profile. Okay. Pull it in here. Hit that refresh button a couple times. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and collect device statistics, little housekeeping things here, so I can get some historical information. I'll go ahead and set my configuration for firmware and config backups. So TFTP, my default map server settings. I'm going to use a built-in script for Cisco systems. If I view this, you can kind of see the script that they're using. It's pretty straightforward to back up and restore configs. Okay. If I open device view, I got my port level information. There's all my stuff. There's my uplink port. I'll go ahead and collect device statistics here. Interface statistics historically. Excuse me. Oh, it's enabled by default, so that's good. Okay. And we're discovering our neighbors. So since we're discovering our neighbors, we should be able to add this guy and this guy to our maps. I created a map called Hennerville, and I apparently have done this already on a few things, but yeah, just right click on those devices, add them to the map. Okay, there they are. If I look at my map, hey, we got links. So we're seeing the link details, so that's great. Good stuff. So we'll go back to world and select our devices. All right, and they're all there. So I'm going to go to archives. I'll create a new archive for the Cisco switch. Cisco archives. I'm going to uncheck capacity planning data and just do a config backup. Okay. Next. Select my Cisco switch. And we'll do it daily. Finish. Okay. Let's see. It's doing a backup now. While it's working on that, let's do something fun. We'll pull up our Cisco switch. There it is. And go into G401. I haven't removed it from the stack. I probably should. Okay. Let's go do description and test port. I think it's not quite done yet, but I'm gonna risk it. Hopefully I make this change and it doesn't get it before the backup's complete that we're doing right now, because what I want to do is show you guys and gals some config backup comparisons. So config retrieved, save. Let's go ahead and right click on this, stamp a new version, and let it back that up. So it's starting. Let's collapse operations, and we'll refresh. And eventually, what will happen is when we get that backup, it's going to notice a difference in between the two versions that we've backed up here. Let's do this back up now. Come on. This will refresh automatically, but you know, I'm kind of impatient. There it is. Difference in configs. Okay, so let's compare configuration file. Select this guy, select that guy, and compare. And whoop, hey, there we go. Got a config difference. It will highlight these different colors if it's something it deems important. Like if I changed a password or something, it might deem that as a critical change. So let's see. Let's play with NAC, shall we? So we're going to go into access control. We're going to add, under our default engines, go to switches tab, and we're going to add our Cisco switch. Set the primary engine to our NAC appliance. Notice it automatically populated the Cisco specific configuration settings. I'm going to change my policy domain to do not set because the Cisco switches don't support the extreme policy engine. So we're just not going to enforce that, right? So we've got that in there. Let's do an enforce. Very good. Okay, we've got some old devices. This is from when I was testing earlier. Let me go ahead and delete that guy. So this is, notice the switch is my 440G2, which is actually down right now, so that's old data. I'm going to go ahead and plug in a device into a port on that Cisco switch. So like right here, I'm going to resize this so we can see when it pops in. So if I do show authentication sessions, we see Mac-based authentication succeeded, and this will automatically refresh, but I'm impatient, so I'm going to hit refresh, and there is my device showing connected to that Cisco lab switch, port 3. It'll actually take our port attributes. If I configured that port description earlier, remember test port or whatever I called it, I just moved the device over to that test port, and boom, there we go. Test port. Cool. So we're able to see a lot of detail about the device, and it's got the unregistered role. The next step in this process would be to create some dynamic ACLs on the switch so that the switch actually knows what unregistered means. We'll take that for another video, but here we are authenticating Mac-based authentication into NAC on a Cisco switch. Pretty straightforward if you just use those commands that are in the description of the YouTube video and the steps that I showed you in this video. So thanks for watching.